Here's Lester Holt.
Good day, everyone. We're coming on the air as President Biden begins his remarks outlining plans for additional U.S. aid to Ukraine. Here is the president.
Significant speech. He speaks for a people who have shown remarkable courage and strength in the face of brutal aggression. Courage and strength that's inspired not only the Ukrainians, but the entire world. Putin is inflicting appalling devastation and horror on Ukraine, bombing apartment buildings, maternity wards, hospitals. I mean, it's god-awful. I was speaking about this with our commander behind me here, General Milley. I mean, it just is amazing. Yesterday, we saw reports that Russian forces were holding hundreds of doctors and patients hostage in the largest hospital in Mariupol. These are atrocities. They're an outrage to the world. And the world is united in our support for Ukraine and our determination to make Putin pay a very heavy price. America is leading this effort, together with our allies and partners, providing enormous levels of security and humanitarian assistance that we're adding to today, and we're going to continue to do more in the days and weeks ahead. We're crippling Putin's economy with punishing sanctions that's going to only grow more painful over time, with the entire NATO and EU behind us and many other countries. What's at stake here are the principles that the United States and the United Nations and across the world stand for. It's about freedom. It's about the right of people to determine their own future. It's about making sure Ukraine will never be a victory for Putin, no matter what advances he makes on the battlefield. The American people are answering President Zelensky's call for more help, more weapons for Ukraine to defend itself, more tools to fight Russian aggression. And that's what we're doing. In fact, we started our assistance to Ukraine before this war began, as they started to do exercises along the Ukrainian border, the Russians, starting in March of last year. We took the threat of Putin invading very seriously, and we acted on it. We sent Ukraine more security assistance last year, $650 million in weapons, including anti-air and anti-armor equipment, before the invasion, more than we had ever provided before. So when the invasion began, they already had in their hands the kinds of weapons they needed to counter Russian advances. And once the war started, we immediately rushed $350 million in additional aid to further address their needs. Hundreds of anti-air systems, thousands of anti-tank weapons, transport helicopters, armed patrol boats, and other high-mobility vehicles, radar systems that help track incoming artillery and unmanned drones, secure communications equipment and tactical gear, satellite imagery and analysis capacity. And it's clearly helped Ukraine inflict dramatic losses on Russian forces. On Saturday, my administration authorized another $200 million to keep a steady flow of weapons and ammunition moving to Ukraine. Now I'm once again using my presidential authority to activate an additional security assistance to continue to help Ukraine fend off Russia's assault, an additional $800 million in assistance. That brings the total of new U.S. security assistance to Ukraine to $1 billion just this week. These are direct transfers of equipment from our Department of Defense to the Ukrainian military to help them as they fight against this invasion. And I thank the Congress for appropriating these funds. This new package on its own is going to provide unprecedented assistance to Ukraine. It includes 800 anti-aircraft systems to make sure the Ukrainian military can continue to stop the planes and helicopters that have been attacking their people and to defend their Ukrainian airspace. And at the request of President Zelenskyy, we have identified and are helping Ukraine acquire additional longer-range anti-aircraft systems and the munitions for those systems. Our new assistance package also includes 9,000 anti-armor systems. These are portable, high accuracy shoulder-mounted missiles that the Ukrainian forces have been using with great effect to destroy invading tanks and armored vehicles. It'll include 7,000 small arms, machine guns, shotguns, grenade launchers to equip the Ukrainians, including the brave women and men who are defending their cities as civilians, and they're on the countryside as well. and as well as the ammunition, artillery, and mortar rounds to go with small arms, 20 million rounds in total, 20 million rounds. And this will include drones, which demonstrates our commitment to sending our most cutting-edge systems to Ukraine for its defense. And we're not doing this alone. Our allies and partners have stepped up to provide significant shipments of security assistance and will continue to help facilitate these deliveries as well. The United States and our allies and partners are fully committed to surging weapons of assistance to the Ukrainians. And more will be coming as we source additional stocks of equipment that we're ready to transfer. Now I want to be honest with you. This could be a long and difficult battle, but the American people will be steadfast in our support of the people of Ukraine in the face of Putin's immoral, unethical attacks on civilian populations. We are united in our abhorrence of Putin's depraved onslaught, and we're going to continue to have their backs as they fight for their freedom, their democracy, their very survival. And we're going to give Ukraine the arms to fight and defend themselves through all the difficult days ahead. We're going to continue to mobilize humanitarian relief to support people within Ukraine and those who have been forced to flee Ukraine. In just the past few weeks, we provided $300 million of humanitarian assistance to the people in Ukraine and in neighboring countries. Tens of thousands of tons of food, water, medicine, and other basic supplies to support the people in need. Our experts on the ground in Poland and Moldova and other neighboring countries are there to make real-time assessments of the rapidly evolving crisis to get urgently needed humanitarian supplies to the people in need when they need it. And we will support Ukraine's economy with direct financial assistance as well. And together with our allies and partners, we will keep up the pressure on Putin's crumbling economy, isolating him on the global stage. That's our goal. Make Putin pay the price, weaken his position, while strengthening the hand of the Ukrainians on the battlefield and at the negotiating table. Together with our allies and partners, we're going to stay the course, and we'll do everything we can to push for and end this tragic, unnecessary war. This is a struggle that pits the appetites of an autocrat against humankind's desire to be free. And let there be no doubt, no uncertainty, no question. America stands with the forces of freedom. We always have and we always will. I want to thank you all and God bless you. And I'm going to walk over and sign this bill to allow the drawdown of those materials. And may God protect their young Ukrainians who are out there defending their country. What I'm signing here is the delegation authority under Section 506A1 of the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961, translated into plain English, a total of $800 million in defense articles.
Mr. President, what will it take for you to send the Polish MiGs that President Zelenskyy is asking for?
I'm not going to comment on that right now. I'm not going to comment anything other than what I told you to say. Thank you.
Well, Mr. President,
Putin is a war criminal, sir.
are you going to go to Poland?
President Biden setting into motion another transfer, a large transfer of military assets to Ukraine. Extraordinary laundry list: 800 anti-aircraft systems, 9,000 anti-air systems, 7,000 small arms, drones, what he called cutting-edge systems. Many of which he says were requested by Ukraine. We want to bring in NBC Chief White House Correspondent Peter Alexander. Peter, normally a weapons purchase of that sort of thing takes channels and a long time. He talked about direct transfer. Does that mean these items will be in the hands of the Ukrainians soon?
That is the intention, obviously, by approving that emergency security assistance package as he did right now. That's what he was signing. That allows that money to be used right away to deliver those weapon systems to Ukraine right now. And 2 points I would highlight from what we heard from the president there, Lester, is in addition to those anti-aircraft and anti-armor or anti-tank systems that the president announced, what are called Stingers and Javelins, that the U.S. has already provided to Ukraine and that the U.S. and White House says the Ukrainians have used effectively. The president also notably said that he will be working with America's allies to acquire some of those longer range anti-aircraft systems, some of those that President Zelenskyy earlier today said that he could use to try to fight back against planes and helicopters and incoming cruise missiles. Zelenskyy saying that 1,000 missiles have already hit his country. And secondly, the president said that he will be providing those drones. Didn't specify which ones, but it is NBC's reporting in recent weeks that the U.S. was considering what are commonly referred to as switchblades. These are drones that can travel great distances and can target artillery. They can target individuals. They can be very specific in their target and could be used as a big asset in the effort for Ukraine to fight against the Russian forces there. The president notably did not say he would go any further in changing what has been the position of this White House, providing those Soviet-era MiG fighter jets that Poland presently owns. Poland saying it would provide them to the U.S. to give to Ukraine. The U.S. stands by its position that for now, that's not going to happen. Lester.
Peter, thank you. I had an exclusive interview with President Zelenskyy after his speech to Congress this morning. We talked about the possibility of this conflict escalating into another world war. Here it is. President Biden has been very clear. He's worried about provocations that could trigger World War III. Do you understand his concern there, and do you agree that it wouldn't take much to end up in World War III?
Ніхто з нас з вами не знає, чи є...
Nobody knows whether it may have already started, and what is the possibility of this war if Ukraine will fall, in case Ukraine will fall. It's very hard to say, and we've seen this 80 years ago when the Second World War has started. And there were similar tragedies in the history. Nobody would be able to predict when the full-scale war would start and how it will end and who will put an end to that. In this case, we have the whole civilization at stake.
Some of my conversation with President Zelenskyy just a short time ago. Joining us now from the Ukrainian capital city, Kyiv, is NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel. Richard, you heard about some of those weapons the U.S. now is going to send to Ukraine. How will that affect the battle, or potentially affect the battle?
Well, Ukraine needs weapons. Ukrainian officials have said time and time again that they need resupply of the weapons they have now. They need more ammunition. So far, we're 3 weeks into this conflict. The Ukrainians have been doing very well, but they are still outnumbered by Russian troops. And Russian troops are starting to act more aggressively, indiscriminately, and frankly, more brutally. Just a short while ago, the foreign minister here described another attack in the city of Mariupol, bombing the main theater in the city, where hundreds of people had been taking shelter. And it is another attack on civilians in that city who have had great difficulty leaving. This after an incident also in Mariupol that was referenced by President Biden, in which Russian troops, according to 3 Ukrainian officials, took several hundred, between 300 and 400 patients, doctors, and residents in the area hostage in a hospital, the main hospital in Mariupol, and were using them as human shields. So to prevent and try and stop attacks that Russia is now carrying out against civilians, against population centers, it needs more weapons, and more weapons that it can use from a distance, like those drones that Peter was just talking about.
And Richard, on that point, when I was leaving Ukraine last week on the road toward Hungary, I was passed by several flatbed trailers carrying military armored vehicles, and I'm thinking how vulnerable they are. We're hearing about all this armament about to be sent. Do they have secure supply lines to get in under the Russian air cover and get them to where they need to be?
The supply lines are more or less underground at this stage. One thing that Ukraine has in its favor is that the road out of Kyiv, the road toward Eastern Europe, the road to the west of where I am right now, is largely open. And there are many NATO countries and allied countries bordering Ukraine. So the east is locked off, the north is locked off, the south is closed off by Russian troops, but they still have the west. And that allows them to bring in weapons, it allows them to bring in personnel, and it allows refugees to leave this country. But going back to what Zelenskyy was just saying, what we don't know now is, will the Ukrainians win this war? They've been doing well for 3 weeks. How will they be doing if this war drags on for 3 months or longer? Are we now in a 1939 moment at the start of a much wider war? Or are we at the start of a 1989 moment where we are seeing democracy in Eastern Europe thriving?
Yeah,
we really don't know the answer to that.
Yeah,
yet.
somewhat alarming to hear him talk about the fact that maybe we are already in that war. Richard, thank you. That concludes our coverage for now. Please join me tonight on NBC Nightly News for more of my exclusive interview with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. I'm Lester Holt, NBC News, New York. Good day, everyone.
The FDA